Thursday's Supreme Court decision limited the EPA's authority to set standards on greenhouse gas emissions for existing power plants. Democrats call it a major blow to fighting climate change, while conservatives called the decision a victory for the Constitution. In the 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court's conservative majority ruled that only Congress has the power to create sweeping regulations that would limit emissions from existing power plants, and not the Environmental Protection Agency.
What the court said is that EPA way overstepped their bounds here.
In other words, Congress, our legislature, our democratically elected, democratically accountable representatives have to make the major policy decisions for us unless they clearly delegate it to the agencies.
The court didn't take a position on what the correct environmental regulation should be. The justices, however, ruled on who has the authority to make major policy decisions that have a significant economic impact, saying that on such decisions like sweeping government rules, a regulatory agency can't act on its own. It needs specific authorization from Congress. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the majority, said a decision of such magnitude and consequence rests with Congress itself, or an agency acting pursuant to a clear delegation from that representative body. In her dissent, Justice Elena Kagan, joined by the court's two other liberals, argued Congress had given the EPA the authority to act, but instead, the court appoints itself instead of Congress or the expert agency, the decision maker on climate policy. I cannot think of many things more frightening.
They used a law from 1970 that was meant to go after sources of pollution point by point, and instead tried to completely remake the electricity grid of the United States. And the court said, you can't do that absent Congress saying you can.
The case against the EPA's action was brought by West Virginia's Attorney General, representing some 20 Republican states, including coal and mining companies.
A lot of people are going to try to make this into an issue about climate change. This is about ensuring that Congress, not unelected bureaucrats, get to make the major decisions of the day.
The more important part of today's decision is really who decides. So who decides the major questions of economic and political significance in America? And the court got it correct. It's Congress.
The ruling specifically affects the EPA. However, every federal agency will now have to review its regulations more closely, as it's likely to limit bureaucracies from making sweeping new rules that could affect the entire country.
We have not outgrown the Constitution, and especially the Constitution's protection that it is our legislature that makes our laws and not unelected bureaucrats.
Brody, CBN News.